Would you try to solve a problem in mathematics by popular vote? Probably not. And if most people don't know much about math, why do we assume that they know better about politics? Those questions were asked by one of the best writers ever, Jorge Luis Borges, and they came in the aftermath of a military coup that led to the deadliest dictatorship in the history of my country, Argentina. Borges believed that democracy was a superstition, that it has no value. The idea is simple and even intuitive. If most people are uninformed about politics, then any collective outcome from that society has to be bad. Borges was a genius, there's no doubt about that. But he was also a human. And as a behavioral scientist, I know that humans, and even the most brilliant ones, often have wrong intuitions, especially when it comes to my field of expertise, collective intelligence. And this intuition of Borges was wrong. We know that because another brilliant person also felt the same way. Sir Francis Galton, the founding father of modern statistics, also believed that democracy was doomed because too many people were ignorant about political matters. But unlike Borges, he decided to test that belief. In 1906, he ran an experiment. 800 people at a country fair tried to guess the weight of an ox. Each person was far off individually, as wrong as any of us would be. But when he averaged all the guesses, the answer was almost exactly right. Without meaning to, he discovered something that today we call the wisdom of crowds. The idea that people can be wrong at the individual level, but collectively wise. Galton even wrote in his paper, "This result is more creditable to the trustworthiness of a democratic judgment than might have been expected." Imagine that, a scientist seeing data and publicly changing his political beliefs. I wish I could meet one, maybe someday. But when I first learned about the wisdom of crowds, I thought the analogy with democracy was too optimistic. I remember thinking about that on a Sunday lunch. You see, in Argentina we love long tables, long meals, even longer arguments, and somehow every conversation ends up with two sides, loud voices, and no middle ground. So I thought maybe that is what a society really looks like, not a crowd converging to the truth, but one splitting to two different worlds. So I decided to run my own experiment, only that this time, instead of asking about the weight of an ox, it's an animal that's hard to find in the city of Buenos Aires. So I thought about another question. How many jelly beans are there in a jar? But I added a twist. I framed the question so that half of the crowd would believe that there were too few, and the other half would believe that there were too many. In other words, I created a perfectly polarized crowd with no moderates left in the room. My plan was to show that polarization kills the wisdom of crowds and destroys collective intelligence. But again, intuition, my own intuition this time, was wrong. When I combined both groups, the too few and the too many, the average was closer to the truth than ever. So the collective mind of a divided crowd was wiser than that of a united one. So this left me with a strange thought. What if our intuition about polarization being bad is wrong, is as wrong as the intuitions that Borges or Galton had before? And political scientists have long noted that with a healthy dose of polarization, societies may thrive. Citizens become more engaged, their choices become clear, and democracy itself become more diverse. Even online, research has found that Wikipedia articles edited by people from one political camp are lower quality than those edited by people from both political groups, so conflict can create clarity. Now, some people say, yes, there might be some positive aspects of polarization, but there's clearly a toxic one, which is when people start disliking each other. And that is real. But think about the sports fans from different rival teams. They hate each other, they fight over pride, but when they leave the stadium, they live and work together and build the country side by side. So disagreement, and even emotional disagreement, is clearly not the problem. The real danger begins somewhere else, not with polarization, but with political violence. Violence starts when we stop believing that other people's opinions are valid. It grows when we try to silence those voices. And democracy finally breaks when we no longer see dissenters as opponents, but as enemies. Enemies who don't deserve rights, dignity, or even life. And here's the key point. Political violence doesn't only happen in divided countries. It also happens in places where there's no polarization, simply because disagreement is not allowed. And my country learned that lesson the hard way. The dictatorship left thousands of families searching for their loved ones who never came back. Borges, the very same man who distrusted democracy, saw that tragedy unfold. He spoke out against the regime and later admitted, "The democracy of Argentina refuted me splendidly, amazingly." What refuted him wasn't an idea, not even an experiment. It was pain. It was real pain inflicted by political violence. So perhaps polarization is something that we might want to protect rather than fight or fear, because democracy needs disagreement, but disagreement without violence. Thank you.